Good day, Sven the Slayer here once again, and welcome back to Starmade. So today we're going to be taking a quick look at quickfire configs, and specifically talking about cannon combinations. But first we're going to do a little bit of a background. So when the weapon module combination whatever system was first introduced, it was thought that to balance it out, it would have every weapon system equal based on DPS. So no matter what combination you chose, you would have different reasons for choosing, rapid fire. I think this was longer range. Don't quote me on that. Old system, doesn't matter. But as long as you had the same modules in the weapon, they would all do the same DPS. So theoretically, they would be evenly matched. That didn't really work out in practice. Cannon combination was pretty much king, and that's what everybody used. So they went back and tried to rebalance everything, trying to more diversify and give you reasons to choose one setup over the other. And I made this test bed, trying to build my own weapon systems, choosing different combinations. So I had the 4 weapon combinations here and their base stats just with 2 modules, very simple testing. And the stock cannon was supposed to be middle of the road, and 2000 speed, that's projectile speed, 400 reload, fires once a second, damage 40 DPS. The cannon, which is the machine gun type, would fire had a little faster speed. The projectiles would move faster. Same range, though. So if you could hit somebody with this cannon, you could hit them with this cannon. 5 a second, which was half of what it used to be. It used to be 10 a second. 4 damage for a DPS of 20. So to choose that rapid fire, you really had to, take half your DPS. So that was a really bad penalty for getting that rate of fire. And it's like, you really want to use that? Just pretty much never used straight cannon anymore, just because of how penalizing that 20 DPS was. And like I said, you could hit him with this. You could also hit him with this. Cannon missile, I didn't crunch the numbers on. I wasn't planning on using it. I think AI is buggy with it. Plus you got that charge time, so I got nothing more to say about that one. Cannon beam, range is the same, so it's not really a sniper. The projectile is slower, so it's not really a sniper. High reload, so it was just kind of an artillery gun, but slow projectile. But the DPS was twice that of the stock and 4 times that of the cannon. So, why choose this one with its crappy DPS when you can get a lot more damage out of a cannon beam setup? And that was I guess not sufficient enough to balance the system out, just messing with the speed of the projectile. So quickfire threw all of that on its head and took a different approach to balancing the weapon system. So now the projectile speed is the same across the board, but the range changes, the reload and damage changes, so the DPS changes. So that's probably a way better way of balancing the system. Is you can have short high damage or long lower damage weapons. So if you can hit somebody with this, but you're out of their range, you got the advantage. But if they push in and get close, then they have the advantage. So here we have the same cannon but with the new system. So I just put more display modules on top and reran the numbers. Range of 9,000. I think that's default settings in here. Of course, I think that's based on sector size, so that's going to change depending on the size of your sectors. Reload speed of 1 second, damage 27.1, so there you get a DPS of 27.1, and this is my base for these comparisons, so 100%. The cannon, you get 2/3 of the range, but you now have fire 10 a second, back up to what it used to be, which is a nice rapid fire machine gun. Looks amazing, looks beautiful. damage of 4.1 for a DPS of 41. So that's actually 150% DPS of the stock cannon. So a little better, not nearly as bad as being 50%. That's pretty punishing to go to 50% there. Quickfire cannon missile again, I did not test, but it has a really high damage, reloads in 3 seconds, and deals a ton of damage. And so down here you can see that damage was the same, but reloads in 3 seconds. This one probably sucked in the old system. I don't really remember how that worked, but like I said, I didn't bother crunching the numbers and figuring out the DPS with that extra reload time, and like if you fire early it changes it, so didn't really bother dealing with that. And then over here we have the quickfire cannon beam combination, and the range is significantly higher than that of everything. So you have twice the range of the machine gun, and you know, whatever percentage that is of the stock cannon. Reloads in 10 seconds, does 200 shots, 200 damage per shot, and deals 20 DPS, which is 73.8% of the stock cannon. So even though it's less, it's not nearly as punishing as that 50% that it used to be. Of course, you can't really compare it to the old system. Just comparing one system to the other is not a good idea. It's like, because if you sit back and say, well, my ship used to be able to do this, and now it can't, well, that's not really a fair comparison. You have to compare things built in the same system. Each time you get a major overhaul like this, everything is just going to have to be wiped clean and, you know, rebuilt from shells, basically. And then over here I had just percentages of, you know, stock cannon, and this one I used the cannon as the base. So 100% cannon, 66, 42. So just going smaller and smaller slave as I go. And here you can see the DPS goes up as you get closer to less slave, and the inverse happens in quickfire. The DPS actually goes down the smaller the slave is, because the full slave is the highest. So I use this baseline, so 71, 67, 65, and then it's 65.4% of DPS base when based on the cannon. So that was just a nice comparison to see there. And when I choose my auto cannons, I'll basically find a rate of fire I'm happy with and go with that. That's pretty much what I did before. I was like, I like this rate of fire, and whatever the stats was, that was what I went with. But it is interesting to see. And then I did a practical test, which actually does bear these numbers out, so I can run that really quick. Oh, actually not actually in this thing. So start the counter, ejects the things, charge fire, and it's dead in 2 shots, so like 6 seconds. And you can see the machine gun finishes next, and then the cannon, straight cannon, is gonna finish, and then last the sniper cannon beamed finishes. So if you were just to look at this test, and you would say, well, these things aren't balanced at all. One does significantly more damage than the other. But this test doesn't take range into account. So if you can hit somebody with the cannon beam that can't hit you, you have the advantage. You're just going to keep pumping out damage, and they can't counter you at all. They're going to have to get close. So it is more along the lines of how other games balance systems, where longer range, lower DPS, closer weapons deal a lot more damage. So this would be like the shotgun. You get up in the face, you can pump out a lot of damage. So it's definitely an interesting take. yeah, I really don't have any more to say other than just crunching the numbers and putting them out there. I have to do more practical tests. So as far as my practical tests have gone so far, I've only refit like one ship, and I had to make the reactor significantly bigger, cut down on some of the weapons, and I still couldn't power everything. So I don't know if the relationship between weapons and power is what I would like. I won't know until I refit more ships. But as far as just the raw numbers, it looks good. It looks fine. It makes sense. Just sitting here and looking at them. Of course, if you just look at the DPS, you're going to be like, well, this isn't balanced at all. That doesn't take all the factors into account. So that'll be it for today. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I will record some more videos in less than a year from now. Let's see you later.